Alright, we might make a start now. Welcome everyone, and thank you for coming to this webinar on Google AdWords Grant for Not-for-Profits. My name is Christine. I'm the Events and Membership Coordinator at Connecting Up, and with us today to present the webinar is Sean Ryan from BlackMagic Marketing. Just a few housekeeping notes. Again, you might have already heard this a million times attending our webinars in the past, but any questions that you have, feel free to type them along on the question box at any time. We will address them as we go if we see it's appropriate or it's relevant to what Sean has been talking about. Otherwise, we will answer the remaining questions at the end. So yeah, just type it at any time. Any question to do with AdWords, about the grant, or any other question that you might have for Sean about his presentation. Other than that, I won't take too much more time, and I'll pass it on to Sean. You there, Sean?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Yep, I'll pass it on to you now to start your presentation.
Okay, great. Okay, everyone, well, thanks for registering for this webinar. This is actually the first webinar that I've given on this subject, so excited to present this to you guys. As Christine said, I'm happy to accept questions throughout the presentation if it's nice enough to read it out, but there'll be about a 10-minute period at the end where any questions you've got you can ask Christine and she'll put them through to me. And this can be on the webinar itself or on anything else sort of to do with online marketing that you might have sort of thought about and just want to ask. So let's get started. The webinar is how I'm going to run this one. Pretty straightforward. A little about me and what I do. What exactly is Google AdWords and how it works? The grant, what is it and how it works, and how it works with not-for-profits. Eligibility, and how can you make yourself eligible if you might have applied and you've been rejected. Often there's just something you can change in the application that will then render your application successful. A case study, just to have a look at how it all has gone for a particular website called FluSmart. And an offer that's just exclusive for people who have attended this webinar relating to how we can set up and manage an ongoing campaign for your not-for-profit. And then we'll have some Q&A at the end. So a little about us, BlackMagic Marketing. We're an online marketing firm and we're based in Melbourne, and we do website design, search engine optimization, which is the process of getting websites ranked in the natural search listings of Google. Those search listings are not random, they're ranked by Google's very complex algorithm, and there's certain things that will make a website rank higher than a competing one, and that's what we do for businesses too. Google AdWords, obviously, e-commerce, which is selling things online, and we also do a bit of online consulting to do with sort of social media and brand awareness and things like that. Some people we've worked with, there's a couple of not-for-profits there, the Influenza Specialist Group and the Asia Pacific Influenza Awareness Group, or Apache is what they're called. A donkey shelter down the bottom, which is the strangest not-for-profit that I've ever heard of, but we're working with them at the moment. And we've also got another flu-based mob who are currently going through the application process, and they're the Immunisation Nurses Special Interest Group. So what we do for business, we use the power of Google, I suppose, to make businesses more visible in the online realm, which helps to generate more clients if they're a for-profit, or more interest or more traffic to their site, which can increase their exposure, it will increase their revenue, and just sort of help them expand their actual business. And we do that using SEO, which is the natural search listings. We do this using design. This is a snapshot of AdWords here, and this is a snapshot of the natural listings there. And I'll go into more detail about those as we go along. So what is Google AdWords? It's a form of online advertising. It's located within the Google search engine interface, and people who are on this webinar now all of you would have seen an AdWords ad at some stage. They sit on top of the searches, as you can see here. This is an ad. It's in the yellow box. usually there's ads also down here on the right, and the reason they drive traffic to a website instantly by you click on the ad and you get taken to a destination website that ad is about. The ads are triggered by specific search queries. So if you type in something like golf clubs versus iPads, you're going to get different ads because you're targeting different audiences. The ads are also very linked to the natural search listings, which is what you see here. This is the organic, this is what the SEO refers to, and this is what the AdWords refers to. So if you type in iPads or golf clubs or influenza awareness group, you're going to get AdWords that are related to what you've typed in, and you're going to get natural listings related to what you've typed in. So both are triggered by keywords. These ads they're cost per click advertising. So you actually pay Google for each time your ad's clicked on, and the cost for each ad is dependent on the search query that triggered the ad. Now, the more competitive the search term, the higher the cost. And there is no sort of price list or anything like that. You don't know what you're going to be paying until you actually write your ads and submit them into your AdWords account and they go live. The nice thing about AdWords is if you write really good ads and they're targeting your audience and you're getting a lot of clicks, your click costs will drop. And Google sees that as rewarding you for writing a good ad and giving the consumer something they want, that they thought they could click on the ad and they were getting what they wanted. So your cost will go down. So, for example, if you're paying $2 a click and your ads are very popular, you have a high click-through rate, which is a percentage of how many times your ads are clicked on versus how many times they've shown up. And you have a good quality score, which is a measure of the ad's projected success, and also it's quantifiable success from how many times it's been showing and how many times it's been clicked on. If those are all positive, then daily your costs will adjust, and as you tweak the ads and as you tweak the language in your ads and the call to action or the psychology triggers in the ads, your costs will drop. And you can often find you can bring those costs down by up to a third, which obviously will reduce your overall budget. And you can see here's some more ads over here. So you've got positions 1, 2, and 3, and then 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now those ad positions are dependent on how successful your ad is and what you've put as a bid for the keyword. So if you bid, for example, dog training is the keyword in this ad here, if you are bidding $2 a click for this term and your ads are very successful and they really speak to people who want to learn about dog training, you'll probably be in positions 1 and 2. And if you're not so popular and they're not so esoteric and you don't target people as well, you'll be down sort of 5, 6, 7 over here. So the strength of your ad will dictate where its position it is, and those positions fluctuate. They usually, as you tweak your ads over time and maximize their performance and optimize them, your rankings will go up, as we'll see in the case study. Now, the owners, if you see, as I've written here, the owners of the ads, these ads in the red circles are paying Google every time someone clicks on their ad, and they would have specified a daily budget, and that might be $10, it might be $50, it might be $1,000, it might be $5, but once that budget for the day has been exhausted, your ads will come down, and they'll reset again at midnight that night for the next day, and that's how you're able to control your monthly budget. So the click costs work based on the strength of the ad, how well it speaks to your audience, and there's just a bit of an example here. If you say dog training costs $1 a click, and they got 1,000 clicks for the month, they would get 1,000 visitors to their website, and it would cost them $1,000. And many people can't afford or want this sort of bill, so they would set a daily budget that suits them, which could be a lot less. As I said, might be $5, $10 a day. Typically, someone who's willing to spend $1,000 a month on ads might be an e-commerce store, and they're going to get revenue back because they're going to make a sale. and so that can offset the cost a bit. But if you're an ordinary business like a law firm or something like that, you'd want to have a pretty high client conversion rate to be spending that on AdWords. So the Google AdWords grant is solely for not-for-profits. It's been around since 2003. And if you're eligible and you are successful, you are allowed to have ads running relevant to your niche that don't incur any click costs to you. Those click costs are actually absorbed by Google, and they essentially give you this credit, credit to the day of $330 a day, every day, 365 days a year, which works out to be about $120,000 a year worth of free advertising within their AdWords interface. And this is a credit within your account. You don't actually give them any credit card details, which is normally how they deduct money at the end of the month for the ads. No money actually ever changes hands. It's like virtual money that they are saying you have a $10,000 credit limit every month for your ads. If you're $330 per day, which equals $10,000 a month, doesn't get used up, it just resets to $330 the next day. It doesn't accrue. So if it's $300 worth of ads on the Monday, Tuesday is not going to be $360, which is the difference, plus the $330 for the next day. It's going to reset to $330. And we'll go through this in a bit more detail in the case study. So free advertising, what's the catch? Well, if we use the example of dog training, you can see how if it was costing them $1 a click in Google credit money and they exhausted their budget every day, they would be getting 10,000 visitors to their site every month, using up their $10,000. And as I've said, the ads will be taken down if your budget's exceeded. You don't actually ever build. So if you have a really, really hot search term and an ad that uses $500 a day, you're not going to build 500, like the difference between 500 and 330, you're not going to get a $270 bill. They'll just take your ads down and bring them back up the next day. Successful applicants get the $10,000 worth of cost per clicks per month, every year. A few not-for-profits that I've been speaking to have thought that that's just a $10,000 limit, and when that's finished, that's it. But it's actually $330 a day, every day, $10,000, which works out to be $10,000 a month, every month. It just resets. It just keeps going indefinitely. You get an unlimited amount of ads, unlimited amount of keywords to bid on, and you get thousands of visitors as a direct result of these ads to your website every month, which could be sponsors, charities, online searchers who want to learn more about you, which may donate their money or their time. And you can see there's just a snapshot there of the Make-A-Wish Foundation ad right there, and that's their ad there. And they actually are a not-for-profit. They actually are within the grants program. So before we go into the case study, I just want to open up to any questions that anyone might have. Christine, if there's something you feel that should be addressed now.
I've just got Caitlin asking about the credit. Does the credit have an expiry? I think you mentioned before anyway about how it resets every night or every day. But yeah, she's just asking if the credit has an expiry.
Yeah, the $330 per day, US dollars per day, starts at midnight and will run until 11:59 and 59 seconds if it's not exhausted. If it is exhausted at whatever time, the ads will come down and it will just reset at midnight again. So that's automatic. You don't actually have to check in and pause anything or anything like that. It knows when you've hit your limit because it knows you're part of the grants program, and it just takes the ads down and it will bring them back up again at midnight. But because the amount of the credit limit's so high, to my knowledge, none of the grant apps that we are running or managing for clients have actually ever come down. They seem to run 24/7 because, as you'll see in this case study I'm about to go through, the click costs come down so much into 50 cents that in order to actually hit that $330 limit, you need to get in excess of 600 clicks, which often just doesn't have the search volume for a particular term to reach it. So the ads just stay up indefinitely.
That's the only. Yeah, I think that does really well. That's the only question we have at the moment. So you might just continue on to the case study, and people might have more questions once they see how it actually works.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so FluSmart was a consumer-based brainchild of the Influenza Specialist Group, which is a flu awareness entity, which is based in Melbourne. They wanted to target consumers for the winter, which we've just come out of, regarding the upcoming strains of the flu and why you should get inoculated and for health reasons and all that sort of stuff. So we were engaged with them in February, March to work on their consumer-based website, and also to talk to the consumer, the layperson, whereas the Influenza Specialist Group website talks to the more medical professionals, nurses, doctors, and people like that, whereas FluSmart was about approaching it from the layperson and using different language. So they engaged us to write and submit their grant application, which we did in mid to late May of this year. Their not-for-profit status was approved by Google, and the account was set up and configured by early mid-June, so just as winter was starting. And the ads began running straight away for specific keywords related to the flu, like flu treatment, swine flu, flu symptoms, H1N1, avian flu, bird flu, all these sorts of things related to what consumers would type in for the flu. And those keywords were researched by us because it's no good writing an ad for a keyword that gets typed in 3 times every week, because you're not going to get any traffic from that. You want to write ads on keywords that have thousands of searches a month, ideally, because then your ads are going to show up more, and there's a greater likelihood of people clicking on them, greater likelihood of people going to your website and learning more about you and possibly donating some money all the time, or whatever the call to action is once they get to your website, whatever it is you want them to do. So traffic immediately began to converge on the FluSmart website. Once the ads are written and it's been approved and you set up your ad groups properly, it's instant. The ads run straight away. And because Australia was on the cusp of flu season, being winter, the ads went crazy pretty quickly. So for June, which was this would have been probably 2.5. By the time the ads went live, there was 2.5 weeks left of June, I believe, from memory. So 3,609 people clicked on the ad. Should be ads rather. There was several dozen ads, not just one ad, several dozen. The total ads would have cost FluSmart $2,000 of the 10, because the cost per click was only 57 cents. So in the previous example, several slides ago, I said that it could cost you $2. But that's one of the stipulations of the grant is your keyword has to be a maximum of $1 US. And if it falls outside that $1 US, it won't be approved as a keyword to bid on. So you have to, your ads have to be performing really, really well for Google to drop your costs down to, as you see, 57 cents a click, which will then allow you to bring in other keywords at a later date, which will come in under the dollar mark, and they can then be used as a traffic funnel too. So that little calculation there is just sort of showing that 57 cents a click, 3,609 people is $2,051. So they only tapped into $2,000 of the possible 10,000 they could have been using, and their average ad position was 2.2. So if we move into July, July was triple the amount of people, nearly. 9,624 people clicked on the ads. $5,254 worth of advertising, which was covered by the grant, and the click costs dropped 3 cents, so from 57 in June to 54 in July. And if they were to hit that $10,000 limit at 54 cents a click, they would have had to have gotten 18,519 which is a significant amount of search volume. And I don't think, because we only targeted Australia, this is not global, the search volume for the main flu terms didn't add up to 18,519. So that was actually a figure that they could not reach because the search volume just actually doesn't exist. If they were global, if they were targeting a global audience, they probably could have got to that, but not in Australia. And the average position came down by half, so to 1.7. So if we just have a squeeze back up here at the ads here, where that's ad 1 and that's ad 2. So they were sort of around here, and then they sort of jumped up to about here after a month. So they were sort of at the top, essentially, it feels like. If we go into August, pretty similar to July, just died off a little bit. As winter draws to a close, the flu season sort of draws to a close, and the scare tactics, I suppose, of colds and flu tend to wear off. So they had about 600 person drop in the amount of people that clicked on the ads. It was only 9,603. The click costs came down again by 2 cents this time. So they started at 57, went down to 54, and then 52 now. $4,646 worth of advertising, and they would have this time needed 19,230 clicks to hit that $10,000 limit, whereas the previous month it was 18,400 and something. So, and the average position came down again by 0.1, so it was 1.6. So they're basically fluctuating between position 1 and 2 as an average. September, it dropped right off, as you'd imagine, moving into spring, consistent with the very sort of non-evergreen marketability of the flu. It's only really a winter sort of thing. It's not really in people's stream of conscious outside of winter. So the people who clicked on the ads was dropped by a third back to what it was sort of in June. The click cost still dropped over 4 cents, and they would have needed 20,000 clicks to hit that $10,000 limit. And the average position dropped 2 to 1.5 by 0.1. That's indicative. The reason those costs were coming down was because the ads were consistently engaging their audience throughout winter, and because of the high search volume and the high traffic going through those ads to their website, that's Google's way of rewarding them by dropping their click costs, essentially increasing their limit. Click limit from 10,000. If it's $1 a click, you get 10,000 clicks. But if it's, as you see, if it's 48 cents a click, you get almost 21,000 clicks. So that's kind of a more bang for your buck sort of approach that Google uses. So the next slide is a bit of an analytic snapshot of the entire process from June to September. And these ads are still running. They're content for them to run all year round, because and I'll get to this in the next few slides, there's been some added benefits from all this traffic that's come through their website. So for that sort of, for those 4 months, they had almost 27,000 people coming to their website, $14,000 in savings from the grants paid for, and the average cost per click was 53 cents, and the average data position was 1.7. The analytical graph below just shows the spike in winter. The inside the red box is the winter months from June till August, and as you see, outside of in May and in September, it sort of drops down again, as you would expect for something as specific to a specific season as the flu.
Sean, I have a few questions here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh. Yep.
Yep. Caitlin is asking again, so basically with the grant, you can get the money or the grant year after year after year, or do you have to keep reapplying, or how does it work? Because it sounds too good to be true, just said.
Yeah, no, it's actually indefinite. The reason, I know every not-for-profit I speak to are like, wow, this is amazing, what's the catch? The catch is that it doesn't actually cost Google any money, because it's their own interface. They're not actually giving you $10,000. They're actually just allowing you $10,000 credits to use their interface as a marketing tool to promote your not-for-profit, because they're quite a philanthropic organisation, although they're very much a capitalist organisation because they make billions and billions of dollars. They are aware of that not-for-profits are an important part of businesses out there that promote goodwill, and often they don't have the revenue stream that other businesses have to be able to spend on AdWords, so they sort of have taken it upon themselves to say, well, you know what, we're going to take out the marketing costs to us out of the equation, and you can have a pretty significant amount of money, in quotations money, to use our interface to promote your organisation and keep spreading your goodwill. So as far as I'm aware, we've only been doing this for 6 months, as in BlackMagic. There's been no anything I've read in the guidelines or anything like that that says you have to reapply. As far as I'm aware, the ads, the grant is indefinite, and you can just keep it rolling as long as you like. Whether your circumstances change and your not-for-profit status changes or whatever like that, that would probably affect your eligibility, and they could probably revoke your application and your ability to use the interface. But I haven't seen that happen. But as I said, I've only been doing this with not-for-profits for about 6 months, and there's about we have 5 we're working with and a few more in the pipeline. And it's nothing like that I've ever seen that's going to, you have to reapply. If it is an annual reapplication process, then if your status hasn't changed over the year, it would be a case of just sort of renewing it, and away you go, nothing would really change.
Rachel is asking, how do you select the search terms, as in how do you know which will be the most popular? Now, I also understand there's a particular Google program where you can compare popularity of terms and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a variety of tools that we use. It's called keyword research, and that's the sort of first point. The first port of call is your keyword research, because if you write, as I kind of alluded to earlier, if you write an ad that is triggered by a keyword that has tens of people a month searching for it, it's kind of pointless. It's not going to do anything for you. But if you dig out the search terms, keyword terms that are related to your niche, that have, say, an accumulated total of 10,000 searches a month or 20,000, depending on how popular or what your niche is, you're much better off going for those ones, obviously, because there's a greater volume of traffic there, and you can sort of tap into that. So there is a research element prior to writing the ads as to what keywords you're going to use in what ads, and how each ad is tailored to each keyword to then speak to the person who's typed in the particular keyword. I'll give you an example. For example, if we use something like golf clubs, if I own an e-commerce store that sells golf clubs, and I write an ad that's triggered by the term golf, someone types in golf, and my ads will be coming up for the term golf, and my ad might say, visit my store, we have great deals on golf clubs. What's probably going to happen is you're not going to get very good clicks, a very good click-through rate, because the term golf is not really what I would call a buyer's keyword, it's a browser's keyword. So you're probably going to find that whoever types in golf wants to learn about golf, wants to find out about the history of golf, wants to find out about the rules of golf, but they don't actually want to buy golf clubs. A better alternative would be to go for a keyword which could be golf clubs for sale, or Titleist DCIs, or tailor-made putter, something that's very esoteric, and therefore you can write the ad around that keyword very specifically, which will engage your audience psychologically and make them click on your ad because you're actually speaking to them, and therefore you're more likely to get a sale at the end of the chain of events that gets into your website because you've actually engaged them. So it's not just about getting a bucket load of people to your website, it's about actually getting the right people to your website that are going to actually do what you want them to do. They're going to engage with your website. They're going to donate, or they're going to volunteer, or buy your golf club, or whatever it is you want them to do on your website. So the process, to sort of really summarize it, is the right keywords, tailoring the ads to those keywords, making sure the keywords have the search volume, and then when they hit, the searches hit the website reiterates the message of those keywords and then converts the searcher into the equivalent of a client, or someone who is then interested in what you're doing, and possibly might donate their time or their money, or whatever it is you want them to do.
I have a few just follow-up questions from those keyword questions. Someone knows out there popular search terms through Google Analytics. Is it smarter to use their existing successful keywords to build on that success, or should they create ads based on new keywords to tap into a broader audience?
As a rule, I don't ever really take Google's advice, and the reason I don't is because they are a company and they're out to maximize their own profits. And even though you're in the grant, that doesn't change how their business model operates. So they make suggestions that's designed to optimize their revenue stream, not yours. So I have a specific set of guidelines that I use based on my own research that's proven to lower costs and generate visitors and generate interested parties. So I use a combination of the analytics tool, the keyword tool within Google, and some software that I actually own. And through all those sorts of things, I can kind of cross-check and make sure that I'm going after the proper keywords. As a snapshot, keywords that are relevant to your niche, which have the highest search volume, are the best ones to go for as a good rule of thumb. But there's also sort of long-tail keywords, which might be made up of 3 or 4 words, which could be tailor-made, or broom handle putter would be a long-tailed keyword, whereas putter would just be a short-tailed keyword. So you can get more specific if you go long-tail, but the trade-off is the search volume. So I use the combination of the analytics, the Google keyword tool, and my own sort of software to dig out the best keywords, because essentially what you're doing is trying to mine them out. You're trying to find them, because you will end up inevitably bidding against your competition too. And if you are successful and eligible for a grant application, the sheer traffic of your site helps to lower the costs of everything, which will trump your competitors, as happened with FluSmart. They were sort of trumping government ads because the governments weren't part of the Adwords grant program and had to spend their own money or their own budgets on the ads, and they weren't getting the traffic, so FluSmart was ranking higher than them. So it comes down to sort of, I suppose, it comes down to personally me. I have my own sort of system that I use, but you can use the analytics and you can use the Google keyword tool to give you a snapshot.
We might just go through the next few ones really quickly. If you use a single word, say milk, will your ad come up when someone searches for cow's milk?
No.
So it has to be specifically.
It'll show up for exactly what you specify it to. If you specify milk, cow's milk won't come up. And the reason for that is you can specify 3 different types of keyword matches: phrase, broad, and exact. Whoops, sorry about that. I'll just make sure this comes back up. Phrase and broad are very, as you might imagine, broad terms, and they will actually probably they won't help you, they'll hinder you, because your ads have to be really linked to your keyword that you're bidding on, and if they're not, you're not going to get clicks. So if you go back to the cow's milk example, someone who's typing in cow's milk, or someone who's typing in milk rather, might not want cow's milk, they might want information on milk. So what I always do with my ads is I specify only exact matches. So only when someone types in cow's milk, my ads that have cow's milk as the trigger will come up, not milk, because you're more likely to get a better click-through rate, which is the amount of times your ads are clicked on divided by how many times they're shown. As that percentage increases, your costs come down. And the percentage will only increase if your ads speak to your audience. And the only way they're going to speak to your audience is if they're really tailored to what your audience is typing in. So you've got to be specific in what keyword to use and how the ad relates to that keyword.
Does the keyword ad or click-through cost have to be under $1 US to comply with the grant?
It has to be $1 and under, yeah. Otherwise, it won't be allowed through. But you can add keywords as you're going, and we check our campaigns every day, at the very most every 2 days, to ensure that the ads are performing and the keywords are proper the keywords are optimized, and you can see the analytics will drop, and as soon as they start to drop, we either pause the ad, change the keyword, or bring in a new keyword. And as your costs come down overall for your campaign, you're more likely to get Google to maybe nudge a few other keywords over the line for that $1 US dollar limit. And I've often found that for really competitive terms like flu symptoms, they were, I think, when I initially did the research, I was in excess of about $2.30 with the projected click costs for that. And as you saw on the case study, it came down to 50 cents. So your costs do come down, and you can add more keywords down the track that will come under that $1 thing. That's just the sort of the initial guide to when you're writing your ads, and it'll tell you when you're writing your initial ads that you haven't complied and you need to find a new keyword, and so it's a bit of a sort of a juggling act at the start.
Just ask one more question about the keyword, and then we'll move on, and then I'll ask the rest of the questions after the end of the presentation. So Rosemary is asking that her work requires food raising rather than fundraising. Would that be harder to write keywords for?
Requires what? Food raising?
I guess just getting help in terms of providing food.
Yeah, okay. It all depends on what the keywords are. I mean, when someone asks me, if I have a client come along and say, what keyword should I be trying to rank for, I would tell them I have no idea. I have to do the research, because often something comes out of left field that you think, why is there 20,000 people a month typing in, donkey shelter? I've never even heard of that. I didn't know there was a donkey shelter, and I didn't know it was a not-for-profit. And 20,000 a month isn't the figure, I've just pulled that out. But that's where the research comes in. You sort of have to sit down and go, okay, what's going to speak to my audience, and is that relevant to me? And then it's a culling process. So you might dig out 200 keywords and then whittle it down to 30 or 10 or 100. It just depends on what comes out in the wash and whether you can use it.
I will just get you to continue your presentation, Sean, and I do have a few questions left, but I will address them at the end because they're more generic about the ads and about applying and all that kind of things.
Sure thing. Well, we'll try and wrap this up in about 5 minutes, and then there's probably going to be 15 minutes or so of questions, which is going to be cool. Okay, so what we can do for you today, this is just for you people in this webinar, and interested parties can email me their details, intimating their interest in our course program. And you don't need to provide any of the eligibility documentation just yet. Just register your interest, and we'll go forward from there. So we manage the application on your behalf. If you're unsuccessful in your application, then we're not going to charge you, and you can have us resubmit it if you like. If you're unsuccessful, it's just an automated message. It doesn't actually tell you why. So it's a case of often sort of putting a couple of things together and sort of thinking, okay, why was this unsuccessful? And then you change something, and then it might get it over the line. And an example is this donkey shelter we're working with. Initially, it was denied, and I felt it was because of their website. It was a very thin website with just one page on it and not a whole lot of content. It didn't really offer a lot. So unbeknownst to me, they actually had redeveloped their website and not actually told me. So once I had that new website URL and I resubmitted for them with the documentation and that URL, they were approved. And conversely, one of the nurses, the immunisation nurses specialist group, have been denied as well. They were denied yesterday, and I'm still trying to ascertain why they have been. I think it's because of the documentation that they have provided for their proving their not-for-profit status is too thin. They just provided me with one page, which is a certified ledger from their accountant or lawyer, I think, but it needs to be, I think, a bit more meaty in terms of their objectives and things like that. So they're digging that out now, and I'll resubmit once I have the document, and I think that'll get them over the line. If your application is successful, the cost for the application itself, which includes all the setup costs and everything like that, is $400, which is ordinarily $750, is what we charge. And the first month of us managing your campaign is free. So you get the application submitted, written, everything adhered to, tied in a bow, sent to Google, confirmed, your account created within Adwords, your ads written, the research done, basically the whole thing sort of managed for you. You just sort of will sit back and start to notice a lot of people coming to your site because the ads just go live and that's it. And the ongoing monthly costs from the second month onward is $300 a month for us to manage the campaign. And those management fees are for our time to manage the ads, change the ads, pause the ads, add the keywords, check the analytics, optimize the ads, and essentially just try and get each month, get more people each month as much as we can. If you're an evergreen niche, then you're going to naturally hit a ceiling, but we want to hit that ceiling and make sure it's really, really high so you're getting heaps of people coming every month and engaging with what it is you do, and providing you with data at the end of the month as to, similar to the analytical graph you saw with FluSmart, over time, this is how it's going, this is the increased traffic, this is how your costs are coming down, and essentially just showing you how your campaign is going. So the AdWords campaign is tailored to your not-for-profit niche. We have an intimate knowledge of how AdWords works. It's a very, very steep learning curve if you're a newbie. You can't sort of really just dive in and get it to work to its maximum potential because it just won't work. You just won't get the click-through rate percentages. The costs won't come down, and your ads won't perform, and you just won't get the traffic because of it. And we check the performance and make sure it's all humming along nicely. We do that daily, semi-daily, and that's sort of that time over the month is where the 300 time management for the fee comes into it. So is it worth it? And that's a fair question. Is it worth it? Success of FluSmart has enabled them to redevelop their international strategy, which we'll be involved in with that too. They're actually targeting the Asian flu market now because they're moving into their winter, and it's called the eye, not the idea, sorry, called the eye of the World Health Organization and the Asian flu-specific medical fraternity. And so now what we're doing is actually working on getting the ads for this particular part of the flu mob, the Asian FluSmart, if you like, translated into Mandarin, Cantonese, Japanese, Taiwanese, Vietnamese, and we're going to use it as a research project to see which countries respond to which flu terms. And so in the case of epidemic, pandemic, sort of SARS, swine flu type things, they have empirical evidence on how to address the population using specific languages. And the grant's enabling them to do that because of the amount of ads we can write for them. We also did a bit of SEO, which is getting your website naturally ranked in Google, and that the amount of traffic coming through the website really worked cohesively nicely with the SEO, and now they sort of fluctuate between number 2 and number 7 for the term flu symptoms, which is really, really competitive. And they've also, their website homepage has also been given a page rank of 4 by Google, and that page rank number is indicative of Google's view of you as an authority on a particular subject. So your Wikipedias, your BBCs, your NBCs are always like 8 and 9 because they're the authority on a particular subject. And your brand new site that doesn't really, it hasn't got any kind of a following, no one really knows about it, are a 0. So a 4 is pretty good in such a short space of time. It was a 4 about 6 weeks in, so from the grant actually driving people. So that's some sort of happy little spin-offs that they've been able to enjoy. And their online advertising budget for this financial year has actually been increased too, because the benefits of it has been sort of seen. So what do you need for this? You need to have a website. It helps if you're a .org.au, I am finding, but there is one that has been approved. It's not a .org. It's a .asia, and that's the Asian flu people. You need a valid email address that you check often, because that's the email address I have to use to submit the grant on your behalf, and then you'll get approved, and then all you need to do is click me the approval email and I can manage it from there. You need to be an accredited not-for-profit. This proof is included in a document called the Constitution of your company, which outlines your mission statement, objectives, and states you're limited by guarantee. Now, Christine mentioned to me that someone asked her about a DGI status. Christine, was that do you want to just maybe bring that up now, or address it now?
Yeah, someone emailed.
Talking about it?
Yeah, someone emailed earlier today that he thought that they didn't get the grant because they didn't have a deductible gift recipient status, and it seemed like Google Grant required the DGI status to be able to approve the grant.
Yeah. Well, if anyone is thinking that, and I'll address it now. I'm not aware of anything like that, because the people who are involved with the flu people, don't have DGI status. They're purely about getting information out about the flu to the public and the medical fraternity and things like that, and they've been accepted. Both of them have been accepted. So, and I'm hoping to get the nurses over the line in the next day or so. So, I don't know whether that is true or not. Certainly, it's a case of if you are denied, if your eligibility is withdrawn and you're not, you can resubmit as many times as you like. So it can be a case of sort of reverse engineering why you might not have got through. But to address that question, to my knowledge, DGI status doesn't affect it, because the flu people haven't got it and they've been accepted. So the process is, upon receiving your documentation, we make the application. And if you're successful, the account's set up, the AdWords set up, the research, the ads, it takes us about a week to 10 days to do. And then the ads are live, and everyone is being funneled to your site. Analytical data will be sent to you at the end of every month, monitoring the previous month's performance, just like a bit more in depth than what you saw on the FluSmart case study, but a similar sort of graph, just so you can get an idea of where everyone's coming from, and you can actually specify a geographic interest if you like. And you can also go global. You don't have to limit yourself to Australia if you don't want to. If you want to try and tap into an overseas market, that's perfectly acceptable. And these campaigns are scalable, and should your organisation want to increase the amount of time that we dedicate each month to manage their account, that can be arranged if you want to really try and explode. You can't ever go past the $10,000 limit, but if it's 50 cents a click and you're hitting that limit and getting 20,000 people visiting your site every month, you're probably going to need to increase your bandwidth on your web host, because your site will probably crash because there'll be that many people coming to it. So these are all sorts of things that we can address down the track if you're interested. So this is, I suppose, a bit of a summary of what you sort of can enjoy. Thousands of visitors every month additional, limitless advertising in AdWords, virtually limitless, brand awareness, increased exposure, and we don't have any contracts, but we recommend 3 to 6 months just to get enough data so you can sort of work out, well, this has actually been really great for me. We've grown amazingly, we're now getting all this exposure and all these donations, and it's fantastic. Or if it hasn't worked out for you, then you can leave. It's completely no contracts. And that is it. So many thanks for listening. And I don't know if I did mention this, but we're only taking, as in BlackMagic, we're only taking 25 spots because we have a portfolio of 5, and we're looking to probably cap that at 30 at the moment, just because the management, the time involved in managing these things ongoing is quite intensive, and any more than sort of 30 will probably push us a bit too far in terms of managing our other clients with web design and SEO and all those sorts of things. So it's kind of a, I suppose, a first. Sorry, Christine, you.
Oh, I thought you finished because I have a few questions lined up.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. I've got one more slide here. I just want to. Oh, there you go. Are there any questions?
Yes, so just a few ones. Andrew was asking, can you have differing ads for different parts of the business under the one grant?
Yep. It's completely keyword driven. So, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
What if your organization is the first option when a customer search for your organization on Google? Can you still apply for the grant?
Say that again. I missed the start of what you said then, Christine.
So if your organization is the first option on a natural search, can you still apply for the grant?
Yeah, if you're not for profit, yeah, absolutely. Because the organic searches, which is the SEO, they're Google. That's Google ranking websites using their super highly complicated algorithm that no one knows about. No one knows how they rank websites. We just have a few theories that we adhere to, and sometimes it works, and well, actually more often than not it works. But Adwords is a revenue stream for them. Now, although the grant is not a revenue stream for them, they don't actually separate the two. So if you could have your site be number 1 through to 10 on the first page, you can still get the grant because they would just look at it as, wow, you're on our organic listings and you're on our ads. What a great not-for-profit you are. You're really trying to expose yourself and promote your goodwill and doing all that good stuff. So, yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter if you're on number 1 or number 1,000. You can still get it if you're an accredited not-for-profit.
Does Google review your website to assess your eligibility for the grant?
I believe they do, yes. And the reason I believe this is because the initial donkey shelter application was rejected because the website was one page, very thin. When I say thin, I mean there was no content on it. There was maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs, and that was it. No other pages, not even a contact page. When I realized that was their old site, and they had in fact updated it and not told me, and I submitted that one, which was had contact pages, had what they do, had where they were, had what they're trying to do, their mission, objective, and sort of things like that, and resubmitted, they were approved. So a .org.au does seem to help because a .org is the URL or the domain name that's usually affiliated with a not-for-profit, like wikipedia.org, those sorts of things. If you're a .com.au, I don't think it'd matter if you have the proper accreditation.
Yep. So something going back about the website. So do you have to apply separately for different parts of the business that have different websites?
I don't believe so. I'm actually working on that with the FluSmart people because FluSmart's owned by the Influenza Specialist Group, who actually have the grant. The grant is in the Influenza Specialist Group's name. So what I'm actually going to be doing over the remainder of this week is writing some more ads going to the Influenza Specialist Group website, but under the FluSmart campaign. So if you imagine the campaign umbrella of FluSmart, but there's ads in it going to FluSmart and ads in it going to the Influenza Specialist Group. So I don't see why that would be a problem because it's the same organisation under the same umbrella. I will know next week because I'll have empirical data as to when the ads have been denied or approved, but I don't foresee that being a problem because all you do is specify the destination website in the ad.
Yeah.
So instead of, I might just duplicate the ad and change the destination URL from flusmart.org to the isg.org. So.
Yep. Phil was also saying that they have 2 websites and it was approved and it can split by campaign, so that obviously works fine. Just a few just a few more questions here about application. So if you are to apply on your own, do you just go to Google website, and do you have to use BlackMagic after the application process, and what happens if BlackMagic doesn't deliver the increase of traffic?
If we don't deliver the increase, as in if they're not happy with the performance of the ads?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if they're not, then they can most definitely approach me. I mean, there's no contracts. If they're not happy with what we've done for them, then they can leave us. They don't have to. We don't have to manage it for them. But all I would say is with the steep learning curve of AdWords, if you don't get the click-through rate percentages up and the cost per click's down and all those sorts of little mitigating factors, the ads don't perform and you don't get traffic to your site. So if people aren't happy with the work we're doing for them, then they can email me and I'll address it. Absolutely. As I said, there's no contracts. But everyone, the not-for-profits that we're working with at the moment are quite happy, very happy actually with what work we're doing, but no contracts.
Does more ad groups per campaign dilutes the effort?
No. Ad groups are a collection of ads of a similar vein. It's basically it's an easy way to track things. I find I use them as sort of almost like, I suppose, if you've got a folder, which could be analogous to a campaign, and then within that folder, like a binder folder, within that folder is perhaps some manila tabs, which might be, for talking of, say, personal, might be your tax, and then might be your car, might be your health insurance. So you separate this manila folder this binder into different areas. Those manila tabs would be like the AdWords, and the stuff in those tabs would be the ads. So it's a way to sort of separate everything. And the way I structure my campaigns is I don't keyword load because it doesn't work. I have one keyword per ad because that's the best way to get the ads performing to their maximum potential, because you're more likely to get someone to click on the ad because the keyword that they typed in to trigger it is the ad's written specifically for that keyword. So you're more likely to get that psychological response. So you can have as many ad groups as you like, and I typically just try and keep them a cohesive group so it makes it easy to track.
So does your ad, this is the same question by the same person, does your ad need to be under first page bid estimate?
Well, initially, yeah, but it is just an estimate. So once the traffic is flowing, the costs drop and the click-through rate increases. So if you've got if it's a good campaign, you naturally will rise up and naturally be between 1 to 3. Straight off the bat, Flu Smart was number 2 and a bit, average, and then it ended up being 1.5. So does that make sense?
Yeah. So which tool should, I think this might have been referred earlier in the webinar as well, but which tool do you recommend to use to search on keywords, costs and usage in Australia?
Well, you'd need to log into AdWords and use the Google keyword tool as a basic tool. That will give you your cost per click projections if you're a for-profit business. So they don't really give you a good idea of whether it's, because you've got to come under the $1 US to make it a keyword to go in the grant. But if you need to go to adwords.google.com.au and you can log in. Well, you need to create an account for yourself, but you can log in then and navigate your way to the keyword tool, and it will tell you search volumes for the year, for the month, locally, which is Australia, and globally. And you just obviously want to focus on Australia if that's what you're interested in. You can change the country. If you change it to the US, then the local search listings then become for the US, and then the global one is obviously still global. And you'll get you'll get cost per click projections and things like that.
I have two last questions. Anne's account has been approved, but the ads are not displaying as there is no credit in her account. Can you provide any insight as to why this may be?
No. So she's actually got the grant,
Yep.
been approved,
Yep.
gone through the entire process, written the ads, and they're not showing.
Yep.
I have to log into her account where the ads are and see what's going on.
Yeah, she just said there's no credit in her account. I might get this offline, Anne-Marie, and just get you in touch with Sean directly.
Yeah, but you don't actually get any credit per se. They just, well, it must have been set up incorrectly in the initial phase. Is all I can think of, because there's no, you don't really get a credit. It's just sort of $330 figuratively, and it just keeps going. It doesn't really, you never see it deduct down to zero. You just won't see your ads up there if you've hit the limit. So that's an interesting one. I don't know. I'd have to have a look at her account.
Yeah, I'll keep you in touch offline. And just one last question in terms of just application process. We have obviously talked about documentations and everything that needs to be provided to you, but if someone just wants to apply because they have no specific any budget at all, do they just go to Google's website or?
You go to google.com, google.com.au/grants is the initial sort of landing page where you can navigate your way around there and have a bit of a read, and all the guides are there. And it's about a five-stage process. So you get accepted, and then you get into the next port, if you like, where you provide more information, and then into the Adwords interface and sort of XYZ.
Yeah. That's basically the end of the questions, and we are basically just finished at this time anyway. So, well, thank you very much for everyone for posting the questions. Thank you, Sean, for facilitating. We will send through some follow-up emails after the webinar with the recording, with the slides, and with just contact Sean and everything else. So, yeah, if there's any further question, as Sean said, please feel free to contact him directly, and he will try to help you. Other than that, I think that's basically it, and I would just reiterate about the offer that Sean mentioned, but again, I will put that in the email so that just as a reminder. Well, thank you again, Sean and everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.